Imagine this for a second. You wake up in the morning, and instead of feeling that weight on your chest, the chaos of the world outside doesn't seem to bother you that much. You feel at peace, even when everything around you is going crazy. How is that even possible? You might be thinking, what if I told you that feeling of inner peace isn't just a dream? It's something you can have every single day. And the crazy part, neuroscience and Buddhism might have the answers to how you can achieve that. Yep, it's not just about thinking positive or letting things go like we hear all the time. There's actual science behind it. And today, I'm going to show you how both Buddhism and neuroscience explain how we can train our brains to find peace, no matter what's happening around us. In Buddhism, there's this concept called detachment. And trust me, it doesn't mean becoming cold or emotionless. It's about freeing your mind from the stuff that holds you back, like stress, anger, even negative thoughts. And here's the wild part. Neuroscience is totally backing this up. Studies are showing that practicing things like meditation can literally rewire your brain. You can reduce anxiety, increase emotional control, and even feel more at peace with yourself, all by doing something as simple as focusing your mind. Now, I know you're probably thinking, how can something like meditation really change my brain? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. Stick around, because you're about to discover how the Buddhist path to detachment and the latest neuroscientific research can work together to give you the life-changing peace you've been looking for. Hey, before we dive deeper, I just want to quickly ask you a favor. If you're enjoying this content and you're finding it helpful, it would mean the world if you could hit that like button right now. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people like you who are on this journey of growth and mindfulness. And hey, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on more videos just like this. Beep. Also, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the connection between detachment, neuroscience, and Buddhism? Have you tried any of these practices yourself? Drop a comment below, and let's keep the conversation going. Read every single one, and I always love hearing from you. All right, now let's keep going with the video. So let's dive into detachment in Buddhism. Now, before you start thinking I'm talking about giving up everything you love and living like a monk in the mountains, hold up, that's not it. Buddhist detachment doesn't mean abandoning everything or living without anything. Actually, it's the complete opposite. It's about how you relate to the things and people around you. You know that feeling of being stuck to something, like when you can't stop thinking about something that upset you, or when you're afraid of losing something important to you, like your phone or a friendship. Buddhist detachment teaches us that these attachments are what cause suffering. So what does Buddhism propose? True peace comes when we free our minds from these attachments. Sounds simple, right? It's not as easy as it sounds. Detachment is about realizing that your happiness doesn't depend on what you have or what you achieve, but on how you choose to react to it all. Let me give you an example. When you're so attached to how things should be, and they don't turn out that way, you suffer, because reality doesn't match your expectations. But when you practice detachment, you start seeing things for what they really are, without all that emotional baggage. You stop fighting against things you can't control, and you begin to live with more ease. And here's where neuroscience comes in. Scientists have discovered that when you practice things like meditation, your brain actually changes. It might sound crazy, but it's true. Detachment is, in a way, like a mental workout. When you train your mind not to cling to things that make you suffer, your brain literally adapts to it. It starts reacting more calmly, more controlled, even when things get complicated. In Buddhism, the goal of detachment is something called nirvana, which is the cessation of suffering and the liberation of the mind. And neuroscience shows that when you practice detachment, you can reduce stress, anxiety, and even improve your mental health. That's because you start developing emotional control, no longer being dragged around by negative emotions, and creating space for what really matters. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, all of this sounds nice, but how do I put it into practice? Well, the first step is realizing that detachment isn't something you're going to achieve overnight. It's not a switch you flip and poof, you're detached. It's a journey, and it all starts with one simple thing: awareness. Start noticing when you're clinging to something, whether it's a thought, a worry, or even an object. When it happens, pause for a second and ask yourself, do I really need this to be happy? And that's detachment, and over time, you'll realize that by letting go of these mental chains, your mind starts to feel lighter and you feel more free to grow. Neuroscience backs this up too. By practicing detachment, our brain becomes more balanced, less activation in areas responsible for stress, like the amygdala, and more activation in the areas that help us make decisions and control emotions, like the prefrontal cortex. Pretty wild, right? That's what happens when you start changing how you react to situations. Detachment, both in Buddhism and neuroscience, is the key to growing as a person. It's the path to true freedom, and it's not something out of reach. It's something you can start working on every day, bit by bit, until one day you look in the mirror and realize you're different. All right, now let's dive into the science part, because I know you're probably thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but what's really happening in my brain when I practice detachment? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore now. How letting go of attachments doesn't just make you feel better emotionally, but it actually changes your brain. First off, let's talk about stress. You know that feeling when you're overwhelmed, constantly thinking about a situation or worrying about what could happen? That stress comes from the brain's fight or flight response, and it gets triggered when we feel threatened. But here's the thing. The more we get attached to things, whether it's a certain outcome, a relationship, or even an object, the more likely our brains will react with stress when those things are threatened. It's like the brain starts seeing everything as a danger that needs to be avoided. But when we practice detachment, things start changing, and the brain actually starts rewiring itself. So when we talk about detachment, we're not just talking about letting go emotionally. We're talking about how your brain reacts differently when it's no longer constantly stressed by things it's attached to. Here's where things get interesting. Meditation and mindfulness, which are key practices in Buddhism, actually have a direct impact on how the brain works. Studies have shown that regular meditation can shrink the size of the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for our fight or flight response. The smaller the amygdala, the less your brain gets triggered by stress. That's a big deal, right? It means that as you practice detachment and mindfulness, you're actually reducing your brain's tendency to react with anxiety and fear. But wait, there's more. It's not just the amygdala that gets affected. The prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that helps you think logically, make decisions, and control your emotions, actually becomes stronger and more active with consistent meditation. This means that as you detach from those constant worries and attachments, you're not only reducing stress, but you're also improving your ability to stay calm and make decisions with a clear mind. And you know what? That's where real personal growth happens. You see, when you let go of those mental attachments and create more mental space, your brain starts working in a way that promotes balance. You become more resilient, more focused, and more at peace. You're less likely to be controlled by those emotional reactions or by things you can't control. And this doesn't just make you feel better, it changes your behavior too. Think about it like this. When your brain isn't constantly on alert, you start acting differently. You react less impulsively, you make better decisions, you interact with others more mindfully and compassionately. You start living life with more intention and less automatic reaction. You're no longer trapped by your attachments, and that makes all the difference. And here's the cherry on top. There's evidence that these changes can last long term. In fact, neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself and form new connections, shows that with enough practice, your brain can keep evolving and adapting. So, the more you practice detachment and mindfulness, the more your brain will naturally shift toward a state of balance and calm, even in challenging situations. So to put it simply, practicing detachment isn't just a spiritual thing, it's a mental workout for your brain. You're literally training your brain to react less to stress, to think more clearly, and to live more freely. And when you do that, you're creating a new reality for yourself, one where you're not weighed down by unnecessary attachments or emotional baggage. Pretty amazing, right? The Buddha knew this stuff thousands of years ago, and now neuroscience is backing it up. By practicing detachment, you're giving your brain the chance to function at its best. And the best part? It's never too late to start. All right, we've talked about detachment and the brain separately, but now let's zoom out for a moment and look at something pretty amazing, how Buddhism and neuroscience actually agree on a lot when it comes to personal growth and mental well-being. You might be thinking, wait, Buddhism with its ancient wisdom and neuroscience with all that fancy brain science, how could these two things possibly have anything in common? Well, stick with me, because the more you look into it, the more you'll see that both are pointing to the same truth. Even though one comes from thousands of years of spiritual practice and the other from modern scientific research, they're both about transforming your mind in ways that lead to peace and happiness. So what do they have in common? Well, for starters, both Buddhism and neuroscience agree on one thing: the power of the mind. In Buddhism, there's this central idea that our suffering comes from the way we attach ourselves to things. We get so wrapped up in our desires, our expectations, and the need to control things that we create unnecessary mental stress. Buddha taught that by calming the mind and letting go of these attachments, we could end our suffering and find true peace. Neuroscience. Well, it shows that when we get attached to things, like worrying about the future, obsessing over past mistakes, or being overly focused on material stuff, our brain goes into stress mode. The amygdala lights up, and suddenly we're in fight or flight mode, reacting to life like we're in constant danger. But just like Buddhism teaches us, when we let go, when we practice mindfulness and focus on the present moment, we can deactivate that stress response, calm our mind, and live more peacefully. Both Buddhism and neuroscience are telling us that the key to peace is in how we train our minds. Let's take a deeper look. In Buddhism, practices like meditation and mindfulness are designed to help us detach from the things that bind us, our cravings, our fears, and our attachment to outcomes. Meditation helps us create space in the mind, letting us observe thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them. It's like stepping back and watching a storm pass without being swept away by it. Neuroscience shows us that these practices have a real effect on our brain. When we meditate, we strengthen areas of the brain like the prefrontal cortex, which helps with decision-making, emotional regulation, and focus. And we reduce the size and activity of the amygdala, the brain's stress center. It's like meditation helps us build a mental muscle for emotional control. And the best part? Science has found that when we practice mindfulness, we change our neural pathways. The brain becomes more resilient, more balanced, and better equipped to handle stress, exactly what Buddhism has been teaching for centuries. Now, here's where it gets really cool. Both Buddhism and neuroscience agree that when you stop clinging to things, you're not just freeing yourself from emotional suffering, you're actually creating a healthier brain. Studies show that people who meditate regularly have lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, better immune function, and even greater life satisfaction. It's like this beautiful circle. The more we practice detachment, the more our brain becomes equipped to handle life's challenges. And the more we train our brains to be calm and balanced, the more we naturally feel detached from things that cause us pain or stress. It's a win-win situation. But there's one more thing these two fields share that's absolutely crucial. Both Buddhism and neuroscience emphasize the importance of awareness. In Buddhism, you often hear about mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in each moment, observing your thoughts without judgment. This kind of awareness helps you break free from the constant chatter of the mind and start seeing things as they truly are. Neuroscience also points to the power of awareness. Studies show that mindfulness and meditation increase brain activity in areas that are connected to self-awareness and self-regulation. So when you become more aware of your thoughts, your reactions, and your attachments, you can make more conscious choices about how to respond rather than reacting automatically. The bottom line? Buddhism and neuroscience agree that the power to change your life is inside your own mind. Whether it's through Buddhist teachings on detachment and mindfulness, or through neuroscience-backed practices like meditation, both are showing us that we have the ability to transform our mental habits, break free from stress, and live with more peace. So whether you're on the Buddhist path or exploring the latest research in neuroscience, the journey is the same. It's all about training your mind. And when you do that, everything starts to shift, both inside and out. Now that we've talked about the what and the why of detachment, how it connects to Buddhism, and how it's backed by neuroscience, let's get to the how. Because I know you're probably wondering, okay, all this sounds amazing, but how do I actually bring detachment into my everyday life? Well, here's the thing. Incorporating detachment isn't about making some big dramatic change or expecting yourself to suddenly be completely detached from everything. It's about small shifts in how you think, how you react, and how you engage with the world around you. It's about practicing a mindset, not perfection. So let's break it down step by step so you can start practicing this today. 1. Start with awareness. Notice your attachments. The first step in incorporating detachment is to become aware of your attachments. What are you clinging to? It could be a specific outcome, an expectation of how something should be, or maybe a fear of losing something, like a relationship, your job, or your possessions. Take a moment right now and think about it. What is it in your life that you're holding on to too tightly? It doesn't even have to be something big. Sometimes it's the small stuff, like the need to always be right in an argument, or the constant need to check your phone for messages. The goal here is to observe those attachments without judgment. The moment you notice them, you've already made the first step toward detachment. You're starting to free yourself from them just by being aware. 2. Practice mindfulness. Be present in the moment. Next up, mindfulness. It's one of the most powerful tools for detachment, and it's actually something the Buddha recommended centuries ago. Mindfulness is all about being fully present in each moment, rather than worrying about the past or obsessing over the future. Now, you don't have to sit down and meditate for an hour to practice mindfulness, though that helps. You can start small. When you're having a conversation with someone, really listen to them. When you're eating, notice the taste of the food. When you're walking, feel your feet on the ground. This simple act of being fully present helps you break free from mental attachments, because you're focusing on what's in front of you, not on all the things your mind is trying to hold on to. Neuroscience backs this up too. When you practice mindfulness, you're literally training your brain to be more focused and less reactive. It's like giving your mind a little break from all the noise. 3. Let go of the need for control. A big part of detachment is letting go of the need to control everything. And let's be real, most of us have this urge to control at least something in our lives, right? Whether it's how people perceive us, how a project turns out, or how others behave, there's this constant pull to control everything. But here's the truth. We can't control everything, and when we try, we're just setting ourselves up for stress and disappointment. Buddha's teachings remind us that life is unpredictable, and clinging to the idea that we can control every little detail only causes us suffering. So, let go of the need for control in small ways. For example, if you're someone who gets frustrated when things don't go according to plan, try practicing a little flexibility. When something goes wrong, instead of stressing, take a step back and ask yourself, can I let go of this expectation? And that doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop attaching your happiness to a specific outcome. 4. Practice compassion and non-judgment. Detachment doesn't mean being cold or distant from others. In fact, one of the most powerful aspects of detachment is learning to let go of judgments, especially the ones we make about others. When we judge others, it's usually because we're attached to how they should behave or how we want them to act. But Buddha taught that by practicing compassion instead of judgment, we open our hearts and minds to greater peace. So, start practicing non-judgment in your everyday interactions. When you feel that urge to judge someone, pause for a moment and remind yourself that everyone has their own struggles. Try to look at people with compassion rather than judgment. This simple shift can make a huge difference in how you feel about others and how you detach from the need to control how they act. 5. Create space for reflection. Another important part of detachment is giving yourself time to reflect. In Buddhism, meditation isn't just about sitting still. It's about creating space in your mind so you can see your thoughts clearly without getting tangled up in them. And here's where neuroscience comes in again. Reflection, whether it's through meditation, journaling, or even just a quiet walk, helps you process your emotions, gain perspective, and reduce stress. It gives your brain a chance to reorganize itself, so you're not constantly reacting to things, but responding with more clarity. So try to build some time into your day for reflection. It doesn't need to be long, just a few minutes where you sit, breathe, and let your thoughts settle. You might be surprised at how much clarity and calm it brings. 6. Start small and be patient. Finally, remember that detachment isn't something you can master overnight. It's a practice, not a destination. So start small. Begin with one area of your life where you know you're holding on to attachments. Maybe it's a stressful situation, or maybe it's your attachment to being perfect. Try applying some of these tips and give yourself time. Neuroscience tells us that change doesn't happen instantly. It takes consistent practice, so be patient with yourself as you integrate detachment into your life. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Incorporating detachment into your daily life is about making small, mindful changes that allow you to let go of unnecessary stress and attachments. By practicing awareness, mindfulness, compassion, and reflection, you'll start to notice a shift in how you respond to life's challenges. And trust me, as you create more space for peace and clarity, you'll find yourself growing, both mentally and emotionally, just like Buddha and modern neuroscience have taught us. So, here we are, at the end of this journey together. And if you've been following along, you might be feeling a little moved. Maybe you've started to think about how detachment isn't just some Buddhist concept from ancient texts, but something that's backed by real science too. It's a beautiful thing when two seemingly separate worlds, science and spirituality, come together, isn't it? Because, let's be honest, a lot of the time we think of science and spirituality as being, well, worlds apart. Science is all about evidence, facts, and the mind. Spirituality is often seen as more abstract, emotional, and, well, less measurable, right? But when you dig deeper into the science of the mind, especially the neuroscience behind mindfulness, detachment, and emotional regulation, you start to see that they're not that different after all. In fact, the more we understand about the brain, the more we realize how closely it aligns with ancient wisdom. Wisdom that's been passed down for thousands of years in traditions like Buddhism. Both are pointing in the same direction, the transformation of the mind. Now, why does this matter? Because this isn't just some theoretical discussion, it's practical, and it's about you. This stuff, this detachment, this mindfulness, this way of transforming your relationship with your thoughts and emotions, it's all about helping you lead a more peaceful, balanced, and fulfilling life. When we incorporate mindfulness and detachment into our lives, we're not just reducing stress or feeling more spiritual. What we're really doing is changing our brain chemistry. We're rewiring how we react to the world. Instead of being constantly pulled by external circumstances or attachments, we start to feel more in control, more grounded, and more at peace. And this is where the union of science and spirituality becomes truly powerful. While Buddha was teaching us thousands of years ago to practice detachment to achieve peace and freedom from suffering, neuroscience is now showing us exactly how and why these practices work. They both lead us toward the same goal: inner freedom. Think about it. The more we practice detachment, the more we let go of what no longer serves us, the more we create space for growth, happiness, and peace. And scientifically speaking, as we meditate, practice mindfulness, and let go of those emotional triggers, we literally change our brain. It's not just spiritual mumbo-jumbo. It's science. It's real, it's measurable, and it's available to everyone. So here's the thing. Whether you're on a spiritual journey or you're just looking to improve your mental health, this path is open to you. You don't have to choose between science and spirituality. You can embrace both, and in doing so, you can unlock a powerful transformation in your life. And the best part? It's not about being perfect. It's not about having it all figured out. It's about making small, consistent changes. It's about practicing awareness, mindfulness, and detachment each day. Just like Buddha said, and just like neuroscience confirms, it's the small, daily practices that lead to big results over time. So, where do you go from here? Start small. Try incorporating just 5 to 10 minutes of mindfulness into your daily routine. Notice your attachments. What are you holding on to that's creating unnecessary stress in your life? Take a step back, breathe, let go. As you practice detachment, remember that you're not just freeing yourself from stress, you're literally rewiring your brain for peace, calm, and resilience. The journey toward detachment is, at its core, a journey toward freedom. Freedom from your worries, your attachments, and your limiting beliefs. And as you continue on this path, you'll find that the union of science and spirituality is not just a philosophical idea, but a real, transformative experience. The tools are already here. Science and spirituality have already given us the answers. Now, it's your turn to start the journey. And trust me, the changes you'll see in your life will be nothing short of transformative. Thank you so much for sticking with me until the end of this video. I hope you're walking away with a fresh perspective on how detachment isn't just some abstract concept, but a powerful tool for peace and growth, backed by both ancient wisdom and modern science. Punjay, if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to hit that like button. It really supports the channel and helps us reach more people who are looking to transform their lives. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss out on any of our future content. Also, if you know someone who could benefit from this message, share the video with them. You never know who might need to hear it today. Love letter. And one last thing. I love reading your thoughts and questions, so make sure to leave a comment below. I respond to every single one. Let's keep the conversation going. What are your thoughts on detachment? Have you tried any mindfulness practices yourself? Thanks again for being here. Until next time, take care and keep practicing mindfulness, because your journey is just beginning.